Okay, I'm ready when you are.
Okay, it is 6:30 p.m. We are going to call the meeting to order. Notice is hereby given that this is a regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Sandy Oaks, Texas, being held today, Thursday, July 23rd, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. by telephonic video conferencing for the purpose of considering the following agenda items. All agenda items are subject to action. In accordance with the order of the Office of the Governor issued March 16th of 2020, the City Council of the City of Sandy Oaks, Texas will conduct a telephonic video meeting in order to advance the public health goal of limiting face-to-face meetings, also called social distancing, to slow the spread of the coronavirus COVID-19. There will be no in-person public access to the meeting. A recording of the telephonic meeting will be made and will be available to the public in accordance with the Texas Public Information Act upon written request. Ms. Yelton, can we get a quorum call, please?
Yes, Alderman Fillinger.
Here.
Alderman Rapino.
Here.
Alderman Tremblay.
Here.
Alderman Walker.
Here.
We do have our city attorney online as well, Cassandra Ortiz, and Alderman Yelton is absent, but you do have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Item 2, citizens to be heard. Ms. Yelton, did we get any comments or any citizens who wanted to speak?
No, ma'am, we did not.
We'll move on to item number 3, consent agenda. All matters listed under consent. Somebody, Thomas, can you mute him?
Who? Mr. Rapino? Okay.
Okay, item 3, consent agenda. All matters listed under consent agenda are considered routine by the City Council of the City of Sandy Oaks and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. We have 3 items on the consent agenda. Item A, approve the minutes from the June 11th, 2020 regular City Council meeting. Item B, approve the minutes from the June 25th, 2020 regular council meeting. And item C, approve the minutes from the July 9th, 2020 regular council meeting. I'm going to pull item 11, and I'll open it up to the aldermen if they have any other items that they would like to discuss separately.
You said you wanted to pull item 11.
I'm sorry, A for June 11th.
Okay, thank you.
If there are no other concerns with the consent agenda, if someone would like to make a motion for items B and C.
Move to approve consent agenda items B and C.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Tremblay to approve consent agenda items B and C. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Alderman Fillinger. All in favor say aye.
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 Any more?
Yes. Aye.
3.
Mr. Rapino?
Aye. I'm not getting through. Aye.
Okay.
Okay, that motion carries. Okay, so for item A, which is the June 11th meeting, I would like to amend item 7B. The first one is there's 2 items I want to amend on this one. Item 7B, at the end of the first sentence, discuss and or possible action on approving an ordinance to create a citizens complaint review board. I would like to add to address complaints addressed to the marshal's office. That entire discussion dealt specifically with the marshal's office.
You said to address complaints addressed to the marshal's office?
Yes.
Okay.
And then item 9C, at the end of the first sentence, which reads, discuss and or possible action on approving a change order for supplying water and electric service to the animal control facility. Mayor Ball stated the original contract price was $71,427.58. At the end of that, I would like to add for the municipal infrastructure project. And that's all I have.
Okay.
I would move that we approve the minutes from the June 11th, 2020 regular council meeting as amended.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Fillinger to amend the minutes from the June 11th meeting as presented. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Alderman Tremblay.
Alderman Tremblay seconds. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Can we get clean copies of those sent to the, from the clerk, please?
Yes, these were in draft anyway, so Catherine will make that change and get the finals posted.
I did
Thank you.
not hear from Alderman Rapino. I've unmuted you, Mr. Rapino, if you want to.
Yeah, I was unmuted, but
Was that an aye?
yes,
Yes.
and I.
Okay.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you very much.
Mayor, and just for clarification, the motion was for the minutes as amended, and you just restated the motion, the minutes as presented. So
Sorry, minutes is amended.
Just-
Let's do that
just-
again.
just for clarification purposes.
Okay, so Alderman Fillinger, would you like to restate, or does he need to start over, or you just need me to?
No, he made the motion correctly. You just restated it as presented. And then the second was for the minutes as amended as well.
Okay. So we have a motion by Alderman Fillinger to approve the amendments to the meeting minutes. And we have a second by Alderman Tremblay. And let's do the roll call again. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I heard that.
All I heard was Mr. Rapino and Fillinger.
I said
I
aye.
heard CJ.
Okay. I didn't. I'm sorry.
Okay. We're going to go back to raising hands as well, I think.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Okay, so that motion carries. Okay, item 4 is administration. Item A, consideration and approval of an ordinance by the City Council of the City of Sandy Oaks, Texas, authorizing the issuance of City of Sandy Oaks, Texas General Obligation Bonds Series 2020 and other matters incident and related thereto. We have, and where did he go? We have Andrew Friedman from Samco on the line, and we're going to let him speak to this for us. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Alderman of Sandy Oaks. Andrew Friedman with Samco Capital Markets. Along with Mark McCliney, we serve as the financial advisor to the city, and I'm pleased to present the results of the general obligation bond sale, $800,000. We received one bid today from Frost Bank at a fixed rate for 15 years of 2.78%. If you'll recall from the planning stages of this bond sale, we were, as a first-time borrower and a small borrower, at that, we were assuming an interest rate of 4%. So the interest rate, quote unquote, savings, based on what we were estimating originally, is about $100,000 over the course of 15 years. So we're very, very pleased with that result. We put this out to bid to approximately 30 banks, and we received only one bid. That is not egg on the face of the City of Sandy Oaks. As we are going through this pandemic, banks are overwhelmed with PPP loans resulting from the CARES Act, and their bandwidth is generally taken up by this. And so while we wish we had received more bids, we're very happy with the bid we received from Frost Bank. Obviously, Frost Bank is the largest bank in San Antonio by a long shot, and I think that they're showing up to show their support as kind of the mothership of banking around South Texas, and so we're just thrilled to have them. We're looking at debt service payments of roughly $66,000 a year per year for the next 15 years. The bonds will be callable after 9 years, where we could refinance them if interest rates are lower, which I would doubt that they will be in 10 years, or if we have the cash to just pay them off. And so with that, you'll be, should you choose to move forward, the city, as discussed previously, will levy an INS tax rate in addition to its maintenance and operations tax rate that it already levies, and you'll factor this debt service payment into your upcoming budget. And so with that, then you'll have the funds coming in from tax collections over the latter part of 2020 and into the new year. We will have the requisite revenues on deposit to then make our first principal and interest payment scheduled for March 1st of 2021. The bonds will finally mature in 2035 if we leave them untouched. The money, should you move forward this evening, will be deposited to your bank, your depository bank, on the 20th of August.
That is excellent news.
And I'm happy to go into greater detail. I don't want to overwhelm anybody with all the tons of information that go into this process, but I'm an open book to certainly answer any and all questions or concerns that you all have.
Okay, so I'm looking for the Bible you sent, because there's a lot of stuff in here that we have to go over. What did I do with it? On the actual ordinance.
And
Here it is.
a lot of different papers there, some of which is being finalized by the bond attorneys as we speak, and filling in the final interest rate, because what you received, or perhaps you have, I'm not sure if they emailed it to you this afternoon already, but the ordinance that you will sign will memorialize that 2.78% interest rate and the maturity schedule for this bond issuance. The remainder of those legal documents, you're certainly welcome to read. I don't know that you want to go over them individually here in the council meeting,
No.
but it's like a home mortgage, but there's a lot more paperwork even than that.
Exactly.
And the bond attorneys who prepare that work and represent the city of Sandy Oaks, no one else. So they have a fiduciary duty to you, just as we do in this transaction. We only represent the interests of the city.
Okay. So this is good news. The interest rate is good news because as it was presented during the public hearings, we were hoping for 4%. So this is much better than that. So at the time, if everyone will remember, that number was equated to roughly $40 a year increase in the average property tax value here. So it's going to be something less than that, which is a good thing. That actually works out very well. And I do appreciate you guys working so hard to get this done. I was actually surprised. I know COVID-19 has been devastating to the financial markets. So to have especially a local bank step up is quite refreshing and very much welcome.
Absolutely.
So Cassandra, I would like to ask you on that. The ordinance that we have at this point, we just need to approve the ordinance, but not worry about any of the attached documents, the really minutia that went with that, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and I think in the ordinance, wasn't there a schedule in there? Years 1 through 15?
There is a schedule in there. I don't know if the schedule you have has blanks in it, or if you've, in the last couple of hours, received the final ordinance.
Catherine, can you check email real quick and see? Because yes, it is blanks. There's a
And
lot
the
of blanks.
Yes, the bond attorney is sending the fully amended and filled out ordinance in hard copy to to the city hall tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning.
And so, yes, but it is regular practice that it would have blanks in it because we didn't receive the interest rate until about 4 p.m. today or 4:30 today.
Exactly. Okay. And so, Cassandra, how do we proceed? Oh, I did have one question for you, Andrew. On
Yes.
the page here where the selection and appointment of something to serve as the initial paying agent and registrar, is that somebody that we need to select, or is that something that,
It will be Frost Bank.
I'm
It's
sorry,
typically
it's really Frost Bank. Okay,
and the paying agent registrar simply collects the money
right.
from the city to then pay the bonds. Frost Banks is they'll hold the bonds, collect the money themselves.
Okay. So
And I do not see
Cassandra,
any emails.
well, I think Mark just sent it to me like right before he called me, and now I can't find my phone. Oh, here it is.
All
Let me
I see is the one sent from Andrew to you and Mark. Don't see.
No, it was at 4:58 p.m.
Well,
I
that's
would have
the one.
copied on this evening, and you haven't received it yet.
I have it.
You-
Oh, she didn't. I did.
You did?
Yes, it's in my email. Came in at 4:58 p.m.
Oh,
I'm looking
then
at the one
perfect.
at, I'm looking at one at 4:58, and it's from Mark McCliney.
Oh, it's
No,
from
it's
Andrew.
from Andrew. It's
Yes.
just a one-page final
That-
trial.
That's just the tax rate impact analysis. You'll get the full legal documents tomorrow in hard copy, and they'll probably follow up with an email with PDFs of everything at that time.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, so Cassandra, back to you. As far as this ordinance goes, it's quite lengthy and there's a lot of blanks in here. So my question then is, can the council then make a motion to authorize myself or a council member, if that's the way they want to go, to complete, to fill in the blanks based on the document we will receive tomorrow and go ahead and prove this, or do we need to bring this back?
I would suggest approving it with that authorization of the blanks to be filled in with the assistance of bond counsel by an authorized agent of the city
And that's correct from my
and the
standpoint.
financial advisor.
Okay. Okay, so with that being said, I'd like to open it up for discussion with the individual aldermen who may or may not have any questions. So if you have a question, please raise your hand. And I don't see anybody raising their hand. So, oh wait. Alderman Tremblay, please go ahead.
Okay, so I understand the interest rate is lower than what we had anticipated. I think we also were looking at probably a 20-year loan initially. Now we're going to do a 15. Just, are we going to leave in place the 4% or the 4-cent tax rate? Will that change?
That will change. So as I understand it, when we prepare our budget for next year, we will have our M&O rate, which is basically what we've had every year, and we're going to add a new rate, which is the INS rate, and that's going to be the 2.78%. Is that correct, Andrew?
Well, the 2.78% refers to the interest rate on the bonds. The interest and sinking tax rate that you will adopt will be a calculation based upon the certified values that you are set to receive in the coming couple of days. And so as you fill out truth in taxation worksheets, just as you do each year, there are line items.
Just so you know,
Exactly.
those are due tomorrow.
And so you'll factor in this first annual payment of $67,294, and that formula will kick out the correct interest and sinking tax rate that you'll need to levy to make that payment come March.
Okay, so it'll be something north of 2.78. Okay.
So again, I'm just trying to figure out what the tax rate to get an idea. So we have to make the first payment will be due in March of 2021, which is just the beginning of the year. We don't have a full year of collecting the tax. So we going to be taking this out of reserves to make this first payment?
No, sir. You receive almost all of your taxes before March 1st. And so this number will change based on what your certified value comes in at tomorrow. But as we've been assuming, the preliminary assessed value of 156 million and change, based on where that number is finalized at, will determine that INS tax rate. Right now, it's just over 4 cents. But you'll know that definitively after you get your certified values tomorrow.
So if we're over 4 cents, we'll have to take this back to the voters because we've approved only a 4% or 4 cents.
Well,
I'm looking at the preliminary that they sent this evening. For fiscal year 2020, there is no INS rate. For 2021, it's 4.34. For 2022, it's 4.09. So and it goes all the way down to 3.77 in year 15. But again, it's they'll get us the certified values tomorrow on this, and we'll have hard numbers to go in here, but that is a good question. So how do we address that overage, Andrew?
Well, to the extent that your certified values come in better than that $156 million that we're projecting, it may be a non-issue. You could certainly use excess reserves to apply towards that debt service payment to bring it down. That's something that Mark and I are certainly happy to look at and work with you tomorrow to determine, and if need be, restructure that first payment to make sure that it's under 4 cents.
Okay, and maybe the first 2 years.
Sure.
Depending on how this works out, yeah. And of course, year 2022 is also going to be an estimate on valuation because, of course, we don't know what that is.
Correct.
Okay. So, David, I think to answer your question, the answer is 4% for the INS.
If we can, if we would just need to get an update on this at our next meeting, just so it's transparent to the citizens as to what's happening as far as, I thought we were just going to be making the first payment after the beginning of the year. We wouldn't start collecting the tax, right? We're not going to start collecting the tax until the next tax year, correct?
That is correct, sir.
That's correct. Right. Although we won't be collecting the tax until the beginning of the next fiscal year. So we'll only have October, November, December, January, February, March. We'll have 6 months, maybe two quarters.
Your tax collections will be closer to like 90-95% by February, when they then become delinquent.
Right. I got that part, but I'm thinking we're going to have a shortfall with the payment being so early on. I wasn't anticipating the payment being due till like the end of next fiscal year. Well, I understand where you're at now. I understand it now, but it wasn't what I was anticipating or how I understood it.
You'll be making a principal and half of your interest payment by March 1st, and so that doesn't represent. That'll be almost $57,000 of that annual payment will be made on March 1st. The remaining interest payment is made on September 1st.
Okay.
The municipal bond world, you pay interest semi-annually and principal annually.
Better understood now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I got it.
I was muted. Alderman Tremblay, what you had wanted to, were you interested in making a motion on this? Because you mentioned something in your discussion a moment ago. You're on mute.
Okay.
Okay. So what were you wanting to do with this? You're not wanting to move forward today? You're wanting to put this on a future agenda?
No, I just want to, matter of fact, if there are no other questions, no, I'd move to approve the ordinance with the, giving the mayor, the authorization to finish out the contract as prepared, with the understanding that we get an update as far as the tax rate or payment schedule, how it can be explained after all the forms are filled in.
Okay.
So the motion would be to approve the ordinance. City Council, do you want me to read this whole thing?
I think you can just read the, as it's on the agenda.
Okay, I move to approve an ordinance by City Council of Sandy Oaks, Texas, authorizing the issuance of City of Sandy Oaks, Texas General Obligation Bond Series 2020 and matters incident and related thereto, and authorizing the mayor to sign all authorizing documents related to the bond.
Okay, we have a motion by Andrew or Cassandra, either one. I know that bond language is a little bit different than how we normally do business. Is there anything particular? Is there a script that accompanies it?
That was perfect.
Okay, perfect. So we have a motion by Alderman Tremblay to approve the issuance of the City of Sandy Oaks, Texas General Obligation Bond Series 2020, authorizing the mayor to execute and authorized to execute the contract. Do we have a second on that one?
Yes, I would like to second that motion.
Okay, so we have a second by Alderman Fillinger. I'm going to ask before we take the vote that, okay, all hands are down. We will do a verbal and a hand raise on this one, please. So all in favor, say aye, and please raise your hand.
Aye.
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 1, 2, 3. Waiting on Alderman Rufino. Okay. Can you raise your hand, Alderman Rufino?
I think he's on the phone.
Yeah, I think he's on a phone and can't.
Ah,
He raised his hand on the
There he
phone.
Oh,
is.
wait,
I
there he
see.
did. Okay,
I
all
see.
four.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so that motion carries. And Andrew, would you please extend our thanks to, did he leave already? There he is.
No, he's on.
Extend our thanks to Mark and your team for your hard work on this. And I look forward to, if we need to meet in person tomorrow, we can make that happen.
Absolutely. No, we're happy to. And Mark and I will call you in the morning regardless, and continue to work through truth and taxation with you all. Thank you for the trust you've placed in us to get this done. I think it's something that everybody can be very proud of, and look forward to getting the money to y'all so y'all can start the project.
Yay. Thank you, Andrew.
All right.
Thanks
Thank you
for
all.
joining us. Have a great evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
And bye-bye. Okay, it is 6:59 p.m. and we are going to open a public hearing regarding Master Plan 2020 and possible discussion or action on approving an ordinance adopting Master Plan 2020. Cassandra, do we just open this up to anyone who wants to address council on this? Is this open discussion for council and public?
I know Tony has given or gave a presentation to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I can't recall whether he gave a presentation to council already. So it may be he can give a short presentation on the master plan. It's open to public comments after that. And then once all speakers have spoken on the master plan, then the council can move on to discussion.
Okay, Tony, are you ready to do that?
Yes, I am. First of all, are there any questions from the council that have, as you look through it, did you have any questions? I've been getting questions from the Planning and Zoning Commission throughout the year, throughout the weeks, going back and forth looking for information on how to use it. But any questions from council?
I did want to make one comment. I did sit down and actually read word for word a couple of weeks ago and found just some very minor typos in there. And I want to thank you for addressing those. I just wanted to make sure what we had was complete and accurate.
Oh, yes.
So thank you for that.
No problem. We make the changes. The master plan is exactly what it is. It's a plan for the development of your city and how you're going to develop it, how you would like it to grow. It's not a set of rules for you to follow. It doesn't create any rules, any laws, or anything concerning development. It just gives you a plan to follow. Now, once you accept it and go, so now you have a plan to follow that any development that comes up that, say someone wants to rezone an area and that is outside of your plan, well, you have to change the plan to allow him to or not, and then change the zoning to his use, to whatever he wants to use. You are, I don't have as many zonings as when M&S did your zoning map, they considered all the ordinances and all the rules that govern your neighborhood, all the neighborhood rules that you have for each subdivision.
Deed restrictions.
Yeah, deed restrictions. Yeah, all the deed restrictions. And mine doesn't cover that. It covers just land uses in certain parts of the city. You don't want to have industrial in the middle of your neighborhood. You don't want to have certain types of businesses in certain places. So it just spreads them out. There's about 2 commercials, I think 2 or 3 commercials, one a little heavier than another. And the reason for that is because of the types of utilities that they require. A restaurant, for instance, would require a special type of septic system. A regular office building will not. And so it has a little different zoning that has some different uses to it. The rest are residential. It allows you to keep the larger lots with animals. It allows you to basically stay the same. It just helps you or guides you through the development of commercial. Commercial is what really helps you. So it guides you in that. Any questions? And even though I'm done after this, I'm always here to answer questions. I'll be answering questions for the planning and zoning. We have a big learning curve on that. We're figuring out what kind of forms we have to come up with. So when somebody does want to change the zoning, there's a form that we got to fill out. So we got to come up with that. We got to come up with a planning change form that we want to submit. Who pays for what? For instance, if there's any permitting or any changing of zoning that you have your engineer review, well, there's a fee for that. So we have to set those fees. We have to create the process. In other words, so the planning and zoning has to create the process for you to start making those developments. So we have a long way to go. I'm done with the master plan, but I'm not done with you yet. You're stuck with me.
I don't know if do you want to get with Cassandra first?
I was going to say, let me have Cassandra speak up. I see her hand is raised. Go ahead, Ms. Ortiz.
Just a quick question, Tony. At the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing, Planning and Zoning had made some recommendations or just some changes to the master plan. First, I think there were 3 properties that were changed. Are those changed in this plan, or does that, the amendment? Okay, that's, I just wanted to clarify on whether the council needed to make those changes or whether they could.
No, they're done already.
Amended by
This particular master plan that we have on the website is correct. That has a map in there already. The map is correct.
Okay, that was my only comment.
Thank you.
My question is, so we're not using the Mendez map that was done. Because your explanation for the legend
Yeah.
in your hard copy explains certain properties. And I know that in particular, the commercial ones up on the front there on Priest and Waterwood, those are all zoned commercial, and I think one of those was zoned industrial.
Okay.
So
Well,
are we
my map or the M&S map or the zoning map?
well, I didn't see your map. It wasn't in the packet. I don't have a
Yeah,
copy of
it's
that.
on the, if you open the master plan, it's on section 3, I think. Let me go here, section 3, tab 3.
It's in the packet that I gave you, David, that
It
has
is?
the ordinance in front of it, ordinance 2021-67. It should
Okay,
be
there it is,
clipped
right
with a paper or with a,
Yeah, I'm looking through it, but I didn't see
it's in there.
the only map I saw.
It's after page.
It would be called the proposed future land use map.
It's
That's what it would be
2
called.
pages after tab 3.
Yeah, it's not in mine for some reason.
Oh,
And so.
Okay, so my question would be, would that be what we're going to be asking planning and zoning to approve as a zoning?
The map that I have, right, is a planning map only. So for instance, this is where we would like to see commercial. And this is where we as an organization want to plan our city to grow in this direction. So if somebody were to want to zone it to that and we want that, then we just approve the zoning package and say, okay, you can have a business right there.
Mhm.
But if somebody from the neighborhood in here wants to have a business in there that's not according to the plan, he'll have to approach the planning and zoning.
Right, I understand that.
Yeah.
But okay, I've
mine
got
is
the
not
map that
that.
was included. I have the map that was included in the packet, but it says Mendez Engineering in the bottom right-hand
Yes.
corner.
Yes, that's the one.
So you just that's what you're using?
That's the.
They
future
are
company.
Mendez.
Okay.
He is with
Yes,
Mendez.
we are with Mendez.
Yes.
The one the zoning map was done by M&S.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Okay, so then again, still the properties up there in the front are all listed as commercial. I don't see anything really, say commercial light industrial. I see one property there, and that's
That's the shops at Sandy Oaks.
mm,
no,
No? Oh, it's not.
it's not. It's JNS.
Saying
Oh,
nice.
oh, no.
Yes,
No, it's Valero.
it's
no.
Valero.
Well,
No, Valero's in the front.
See,
it is, but
you
it's
got
the
two
light
up
red.
front.
It's the red.
Yeah. So that's the restaurant right there, right?
Yeah, that's the restaurant. The restaurant is what you have in red
Yes.
Right.
as commercial light industrial.
Right.
So the one right across the street from there, not the ones in the front, but the one right behind, which adjoins the city property,
Yeah.
is actually zoned industrial.
And we can make that. I mean, this is just a plan. Does it have a restaurant in there?
Oh, no. It's not. It's downtown. That's the downtown district, David. The one
Excuse me?
The downtown district.
Right. In the downtown district, the one towards the back, you've got the 3 in the front and the corner. The 3 in the front, the one directly behind it,
Yes?
that's the industrial lot.
Yeah.
Oh, the green one?
I'm not.
Yes.
It's red. It's red.
No,
Right.
no.
They're blue.
I'm gonna share. I'm gonna
It's
share my
blue.
screen. What I have.
Blue is the downtown district.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it includes the industrial lot, which belongs to Mr. Guajardo. That lot is zoned, currently is zoned industrial.
Yes.
So my question is, if we're going to utilize this map, then are we going to, is planning and zoning, are we going to rezone that area?
No, it's designated commercial. It's just been also designated for possible future, it's TIRZ, it's a taxing, special taxing entity that would be available to us
If you have that option.
if
you
we
offer.
have that in there. It's still commercial. It's just a very specific area that we can target for this TIRZ taxing.
Right, it's a special funding, it opens you to a special funding to get money to develop that area. That's all.
Yeah. It's still commercial.
Not answering my question. We'll get off, we'll talk about it later.
And so David, what your first question on this had to do with Planning and Zoning Commission approving this.
Yes,
And what you're seeing here is the final result from the Planning and Zoning public hearing and discussion that occurred by Planning and Zoning after the public hearing. So Tony took all that feedback, put this together, presented the written document, and that is where we are. We've done, this is the final piece of this, is the council approving the master plan.
okay, so one step further and I'll be done. If we have a piece of, if this map identifies properties for land use, if someone on this map, if their current land use isn't in harmony with this map,
Right.
is this a basis for them to change their zoning?
That would be the
Yes.
process, is they
Yes.
would have to approach Planning and Zoning to start that process. Now, as I understand it, Tony, and I'm just, because we're not always going to have you around, so I've been trying to pay attention to everything you're
Yeah.
sharing with us.
Yes.
As I understand it, if, let's say, one of the residential lots that's on here that is listed for land use purposes as residential, should want to change it to a commercial,
Right.
then not only does Planning and Zoning need to consider that, the entire master plan has to come back up for reconsideration. We would have to adjust the master plan to accommodate that.
Right. He has to go through two processes, right? There's a planning process and a zoning process. So if you're okay with what he's doing there and you say, yeah, that's not bad, that'd be good for Sandy Oaks, when he comes to apply to you, he's going to have to explain to you why this would be good for Sandy Oaks. So he would ask to amend the plan so that the plan can show that's part of Sandy Oaks plan. Then he will have to ask for a zoning change so that you can actually zone it for his use. Right? So now if it was already zoned for that and he wants to change it to that, then all he's got to do is ask for a zoning change. See, so there's a plan involved and there's also a zoning use.
And David, if you'll notice along Priest Road, all the purple there,
Right.
those have been designated for commercial. Should somebody approach the Planning and Zoning and say, hey, I would like to put in a business at this location, the Planning and Zoning Commission already has these for land use purposes for easy conversion to commercial.
Commercial, should they want to.
Okay.
Should they want to.
I'm good. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, Catherine, I can't see, there we go. Okay, are there any other questions from council members? I see Alderman Fillinger with his hand up. Please go ahead.
Yeah, all the properties on Priest Road we're zoning as commercial. Residential use will be allowed?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you.
It's only going to change if they request it.
Thank you.
Right.
And Tony, if I'm not mistaken, in the master plan where it pertains to these specific properties, there is a condition in there where they could turn the entire lot into commercial, or they could opt for, was it the first 200 foot?
I just used 200 feet.
200
Because that's
feet.
enough to have parking and the building for whatever they're going to do.
Yes, and so they could, in essence, have a split property
Yes.
where the front 200 feet are designated commercial and the remainder of the property could be residential.
Now, remember that some of those, when we look at those, you have to remember that some of those, you're gonna have to allow them the use, like for instance, some of those restrictions, they allow the use, or they allow people to have animals. So provided that they have this much land, right? Say, you gotta have 10 acres or 5 acres so you can have animals. Well, when you change those 200 feet, it's gonna change that amount. So you're gonna have to allow him to still have whatever he has, but with less property. So you gotta look at all of that whenever someone comes up with a request. I was going to take the City of San Antonio application to show you, but I didn't want to scare you. It's 15 pages.
Oh,
We're
geez.
not gonna have that. I
Tony,
found
during
another
the-
one that's pretty easy.
During the planning and zoning public hearing, there was a question if you would be providing us with this map blown up.
Oh, yes, yes.
Will that still be a commitment?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Who's at the office? Anybody at the office?
I am currently. You bringing it down
Okay.
tonight?
Yeah, not tonight.
Okay, I'll be here tomorrow.
I'll take it to you tomorrow. I'll get a big sheet for you.
Okay, if not, next week's fine too. I'm here
Okay.
every day.
Okay. Any more questions?
And I wanted to make mention that if there's any citizens that have questions, if you're not able to unmute yourself to ask, you can raise your hand and I can unmute you.
Tony, I did have a question on the map.
Mhm.
That triangular piece that's down there,
Yeah, the green.
yeah, that's designated incorrectly.
Well, I went into the BCAD and the
I know,
BCAD
but
found it.
you were trying to designate the fire department. What you
Yeah.
captured was Alamo Broadband.
No, that triangle's over here at the corner. That triangle.
Catherine,
No.
can you bring up the map again, please? I just want to make sure that we have the right property here.
Yeah,
So yes, that one right there.
right. I went into BCAD, and that's what BCAD has as the Bexar County ES6 or something like that.
ESD6, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's what Bexar County has it.
perfect. Okay, as long as that's what it is.
Yeah,
then
I had the bottom corner, the last time I had the bottom corner as green.
the other triangle, okay,
Yeah, I had that one out, and so
Got
I
it.
moved it up to correct it.
okay, thank you. Okay, are there any other questions? Any questions from citizens who are on the call? If you can raise your hand or
No?
okay.
Good.
Okay, so for this particular item, we're looking for a motion from the council for final approval of this, if anyone is so inclined.
And Mickey, I had heard from Cassandra during the meeting. I had made a mistake on the date that I had placed in that last whereas. It should have been today's date. So the date that this is being presented to council, not, I put the date that P&Z had their public hearing. It should be today's date. So
The ordinance?
there's an ordinance, yeah.
Yeah, it says the 23rd of July on mine.
Where?
Oh,
Not the
no,
passed and
whereas
approved.
on a public hearing.
The last
is-
whereas.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry. Okay,
June 27th. That needs to be changed to July 23rd, 2020. And then also Cassandra mentioned that we could put in above that whereas, we could put in
Okay.
another whereas, and my computer just locked up. I can't open up the email if Cassandra wants to read.
Excuse me,
yes.
Charles?
should we close the the public hearing and go back into council?
If you insist, we may do that.
Well, I'm just saying.
I'm just saying. Okay, so it is 7:20 PM and we are now closing the public hearing on the Master Plan 2020 and we'll resume consideration on item 4B. I'm sorry. Yes, item 4B for approval of the master plan. And so, Catherine, as I understand, the last whereas statement needs to be amended to read July 23rd, 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And my emails are not pulling up, so I don't know if we need to put in the other whereas that Cassandra had mentioned to me. Are you there, Cassandra?
Yeah, the only other suggestion, if the Planning and Zoning Commission date was to be included right above that last recital to include, whereas the Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on June 27th, 2020, and made a recommendation to the City Council on the proposed master plan. Something to that effect.
Can we not modify that last whereas statement? Because it says, whereas a public hearing was held. Could we not just insert on June 27th?
But
You can
then-
also do that on June 27th, 2020 by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then a public hearing before the City Council on today's date, July 23rd.
Oh, I see. I see. I'm with you now. Sorry. Okay, so so we had a public hearing by P&Z on June 27th. Okay. So at this point, we need to consider a couple of amendments to this proposed ordinance 2020-167. Is there an alderman who would like to tackle this? I see Alderman Fillinger has raised his hand. Please proceed, Mr. Fillinger.
Okay, I'd like to offer an amendment. I'd offer an amendment to insert an additional whereas clause prior to the last whereas clause, stating whereas a public hearing was held by the Planning and Zoning Commission on June 27th, 2020, with and they recommend a master plan for the city of Sandy Oaks. I'd like to offer a second amendment on the last whereas a public hearing was held in order to receive input from the public and administered a survey to present written evidence regarding the proposed master plan on July 23rd, 2020. Those would be the amendments I'm offering.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Fillinger to amend the proposed ordinance 2020-167 to insert an additional whereas related to a planning and zoning public hearing that was held on June 27, 2020, and also amend the last whereas statement to change the date from June 27th, 2020 to be July 23rd, 2020.
Alderman Tremblay, second that motion.
Okay, so we have a second by Alderman Tremblay. We're also going to use the hand raise as well, just to make sure everyone is counted correctly. So all in favor, say aye. Raise your hand as well.
Aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Tony, I know this has been a very long process for you. And I do know from the very beginning, back in 2014, we have been having discussions about a master plan. So
Finally,
kudos to you for helping to get this
oh,
done.
thank you for letting me. We still
Still need a motion to approve the ordinance in its entirety.
Yes, we do.
And I'll move that we approve an ordinance adopting comprehensive master plan for the city of Sandy Oaks, Texas, and providing for severability and effective date as amended.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Tremblay to approve ordinance 2020-167 as amended. Do we have a second?
A second.
And we have Alderman Walker. And again, we will do verbal and hand raise. So all in favor, say aye.
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 I see, and no opposed. So that is also unanimous.
Wow, we have a master plan.
We have a master plan. Woohoo! Thank you very much. Tony, you're welcome to stay for the rest of what we're going to talk about, or you may go enjoy your evening, but we will be talking soon, I'm sure.
Yes, we will. I'll probably stop by tomorrow, Catherine, and drop you off a big picture of that.
Okay, I'll be here.
See you guys later.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move to item 4C, discuss and or possible action on ordinance 2020-163, ordering a general election to be held on November 3rd, 2020, for the purpose of electing the mayor, Alderman Place 2, and Alderman Place 4. This is very standard and routine. We do this every election cycle. The election is scheduled for Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. And the filing dates are July 18th through August 17th at 5 p.m. And then we also will have a drawing for a place on the ballot on August 17th at 6 p.m. And Ms. Yelton has put together a very good candidate package, and I want to just publicly acknowledge the work she put into that.
Thank you.
I think it makes the application process very easy. Everything any candidate could possibly need is in there.
And it is on the front page of the website.
It is on the website, that is true.
Thank you.
Okay. So is there anyone who would like to make a motion on this ordinance? I see Alderman Fillinger has his hand raised.
Yes, I'll move that we adopt ordinance 2020-163.
We have a motion by Alderman Fillinger to adopt ordinance 2020-163. Do we have a second? I see Mayor Pro Tem Rapino. So we have Mayor Pro Tem Rapino as a second. All in favor say aye, and also please raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that is unanimous, and that motion carries. Thank you very much.
And this is going to require the signature of the mayor and every alderman.
Every alderman. So yes, if you each could try to make a point to come down to City Hall tomorrow and sign off on that, then we can get it published.
Thank you.
Okay, item 4D, discuss and or possible action on quotes received for the demolition and removal of the condemned house located at 4819 Young Oak. If I'm not mistaken, we have received 2 quotes for that. And I'm looking for the one I had. Alderman Tremblay, the one that you received, you want to go over that one real quick?
Yeah, I'm trying to bring it up. I I forwarded it to you. Do you have it there?
It's in your email. I sent you the 2 quotes.
In my email?
Yes. I think it's titled.
Everybody.
Oh, there they are. There they are. Sorry. I see them.
Yeah, if you could, I'm looking for the one from Blackstone. Do you have
I
that
have
one?
it. I have it right here in front of me.
That one was like 65 or something.
$6,750. So it says here, we hereby submit a proposal of work to demolish and remove the house structure located at 4819 Young Oak in the city of Sandy Oaks. This proposal excludes demolishment and removal of the concrete foundation. The cost of work is $6,750 payable upon completion. So that is one of the quotes that's been received. The second one that was received is, oh, I guess I should say who that was. Sorry. That is Blackstone Transport. The second one that was received is from H-Tex, demolition for the property at 4819 Young Oak. And the quote is for $4,900. And H-Tex has done work for the city on a couple of other properties years ago. So we are familiar with their work. He did not go into detail, but on this particular quote, but he does understand the scope of what is expected. Those are the 2 that we have received. And if anyone on the council would like to make a motion or further discussion on either of these.
I would make a motion that we go with H-Tex for 4,900, but so we understand if for some reason he can't complete the work as we need it done, that's removal of all the debris that's on that lot. So if he can't comply with or fulfill that obligation, that's the city that we have, that we would go with Blackstone. Be it, the cost would be more, but we need to get this taken care of.
So do you want to
Motion is,
do a not to exceed number on this one?
We can go with a cost not to exceed $6,750, but we would choose H-Tex as our first choice.
Okay.
And if I could just ask the attorney before we move forward with the motion, the process or procedure for the city and recouping our money would be first to send the landowner, property owner, a bill. If they don't comply within a certain whatever number of days, then we would place a lien on the property. And how long would that lien stay in place before we would move with foreclosure or taking possession of the property? Can you explain that, Cassandra?
So the lien would stay in place. It would get attached with their taxes. So if they or in collected with their taxes, if they're delinquent, or not collected with their taxes, but if they are delinquent on their taxes, then that lien also attaches, and though the attorneys collecting taxes that lien would also come into that lawsuit.
Okay, so next time the taxes are due, this would be placed on their tax bill.
Yes.
Thank you.
But
Like to move forward.
well, wait, back to your original question. So
Oh, they would get billed first.
and I'd like to have that clarified. So they would receive an invoice from the city for that work, and how much time do we wait to receive those funds before we file a lien?
I think the ordinance, I can't remember if it's 10 or 30 days, but the ordinance does provide for the amount of days is probably not to exceed 30 days. And if after 30 days the city isn't paid, then that lien may be placed and filed with the Bexar County Land Records.
Okay.
In the order that was approved, when was it last meeting, it said 30 days.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and then one last item related to this. This item was not budgeted for in our current fiscal year. And in order for us to move forward with this, we need to make a determination of where those funds are going to come from. So these will be future funds that will be reimbursed to us. However, we don't know what time frame that would be. My suggestion is that we utilize some of the reserve funds that we have access to satisfy the price for demolition of this building. And I would like to have in the motion some reference to how this is going to be paid for.
Okay, so you want me to, let's rescind that, that motion? I'll make a new motion.
Yes, please.
Okay. I've moved that we move forward with the demolition of the property at 4819 Young Oak with a cost not to exceed $6,750, making our first selection with H-Tex for a bid of $4,900. With the cost or the cost coming out of our reserve funds with the anticipation and that we would be reimbursed from these funds either through reimbursement of the property owner or through a sale of the property through tax collection.
Okay. So we have a motion by Alderman Tremblay to select as first selection H-Tex at $4,900 with a total cost not to exceed of $6,750. And the cost, the monies to cover the cost for this would come from reserve funds with the expectation that those funds will be returned to the reserve funds once they are collected. Do we have a second on this one? I see Alderman Fillinger has his hand raised. Yes.
Yes, I'll second the motion.
Okay, so we have a second by Alderman Fillinger. Let's do audio and visual on this one. So all in favor say aye and raise your hand, please.
Aye.
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 I heard Mr. Rapino, and I'm
I
assuming his
heard
hand's
him.
raised.
I can't see, where did he go?
You got to keep me muted all the time. I've been trying to talk all through the whole
I'm
meeting,
not
and
muting.
I never get through.
I've not been muting any.
Somebody's muting me. I unmute. I go *6, and it still doesn't come through.
Oh, *6, is that how you unmute?
I have no idea.
You can unmute that way.
You're breaking up.
Okay, so I see 3 hands up. And Alderman Rapino is one of those. Who's missing?
There we go. All 4 are up now.
All 4 up. Okay.
Okay.
So we have unanimous and that motion carries. Okay. Alderman, Cassandra, would it be appropriate if Alderman Rapino had any comments he wanted to make on this discussion? Can he do that now?
I think he can still comment, yes.
Okay, Alderman Rapino, did you have a comment on this one?
No, I didn't. I was going to second it, but it didn't work. So, no, but I'll raise my hand the next time, and I want to say something, and hopefully it'll.
It's still
Okay,
raised.
If I see your hand up, then we will call on you to speak. And I understand it's challenging.
There you go.
Okay, let's move on to item 4E, discuss and a possible action on ordinance 2020-166, which is amending ordinance number 2018-105, regulating vendors, peddlers, and solicitors. So at our last meeting, we had some good discussion on this particular item, but there was some confusion and some further work that needed to be done on this. So I did receive some feedback from some of the aldermen, and it was some very good feedback. I was able to share that with Ms. Ortiz, who in turn put together, I think, something that more closely resembles what I gather everyone is attempting to accomplish with this particular ordinance. So I have some comments I'd like to make on it, but I'd like to open it up to the aldermen first, and let you guys offer your feedback on it first, and then we'll figure out if we can finalize this one tonight. So anyone have any comments they'd like to make?
Yeah, this is Alderman Walker. I'd like to see the temporary vending license for special events. That's under, oh boy. It is under Article 1, G. No. 1K.
Okay, all right.
I believe it's on page 5. I'd like to see the temporary vending license changed to $25.
And that's good for either the special event or up to 5 days.
Yeah.
Okay, would you like to make a motion on that?
I want to make a comment on that one.
Okay.
If we're going to do that low of a fee for a temporary license, what I don't want to see is we get folks coming in on a regular basis, just avoiding the permanent permit or the annual permit.
These are special events.
Right.
Well, no, this is just temporary vending license.
For special, the heading is special events, temporary
Okay,
vending license.
so it
special
will
events.
only be for special events,
Yes.
not a temporary license to come in any given time.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay.
Only special events,
Okay.
as defined in the definitions, which say shall mean any occasion, including but not limited to fairs, shows, exhibitions, citywide celebrations, festivals, etc.,
Got it.
within a specifically defined area of the city.
And I did have I know Charles has his hand up, but I wanted to offer this real quick. The only comment that I had made on this particular one is in the red line where it says, unless such special event is a city-sponsored event, such fee shall be waived. I'd like to change the word from shall to may.
I would move that we amend the draft ordinance with the word shall stricken and the word may inserted.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Alderman Fillinger and a second by Alderman Tremblay to strike the word shall, the fee shall be waived, to read the fee may be waived. Alderman Fillinger, did you have other comments on that or not?
Well, no, but when we're talking about this special events vending license, we had earlier spoke about, one-day events in the park, and I'm okay with the $25 for one day, but if we have in the future a 7-day event, $25 is probably very low. So my suggestion might be a minimum of $25 for a 3-day event and $60, the $60 for a 7-day event.
I'm trying to picture
A 7-day event.
A
Yeah.
3-day event, but a
A
7-day.
3-day.
But in the future, that's a fair change to make.
Sure it is.
Specify.
Does that then require the definition to be changed as well? The
For
definition of a
special
special
events?
event?
Yes, it would, because it mentions 5 days.
Mm-hmm. So it's 5 days for $25.
3 days for 25.
3 days for
Well,
25.
No, I'm sorry, as it reads right now,
Yes.
a special event is only up to 5 days, or the special event permit. Okay.
Where are you seeing a definition for special or for special event?
Under definitions,
Page 2.
I'm looking at that. I see
let's see.
Page 2, number 4.
number 4, special event. There we go.
Right.
Okay, so we need to come talk about this one here in just a moment. Let's continue with what we were talking about on item K. So we have a motion on the table and a second to amend item K, temporary vending license special events, to strike the word shall and replace it with the word may. So we have a first and a second on that one. Can I get a show of hands and an audible also on yay for this one?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so all opposed, that one is unanimous. Okay, then we have a second discussion occurring on that same one regarding the fee. And I didn't hear an official motion on that one.
I'll
So
move to change the fee for issuance of a temporary vending license shall be $25 for any event lasting up to 3 days and $60 for any event lasting longer than 3 days.
well, 45 days, 90 days? I think we should put a maximum on that,
I
Just
just,
7 days.
up to 7 days, from
up to 7.
3 to 7 days,
Okay.
or 4 to 7 days,
4
actually.
to 7, okay. All right, so we have a motion by Alderman Tremblay to amend the fee, the temporary fee, from $60 to read, for events up to 3 days, the fee would be $25, and for events that are 4 to 7 days, for the fee to be $60. So by a show of hands and an audible, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, wait, sorry,
Aye.
back up. I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, Alderman Rapino seconds. And now, a show of hands and an audible, please. All in favor say aye.
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 Okay,
I didn't hear Mr. Fillinger. Oh, okay, his hand's raised.
I see hands up. Okay, so that one is unanimous. Okay, we probably need to go back to the definitions on page 2.
Right.
And I'm sorry, page 3 under special event, and make a modification here as well.
I think it is actually page 2.
Well, they're not numbered. Page 1, it's page 3. where it
Oh,
says
of the
special
red
event.
line, of the red line one? Okay, gotcha. I'm looking at
Yes.
the.
No, I
Excuse
always
me.
work from the red line. Yes, ma'am.
Why do we need an alteration for
Because
that?
special events is only listed for 5 days.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Change that to 7.
Yes.
So we need to define, we need to change this definition to reflect what was just approved.
I make a motion that we change number 4. Special events shall mean any occasion including but not limited to fairs, shows, exhibitions, citywide celebrations, festivals, etc., within a specifically defined area of the city for a period of time not to exceed 7 days.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Walker and a second by Alderman Rapino to amend item 4 under special event definition from 5 days to 7 days. Show of hands and an audible, please. All in favor say aye.
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 Okay, that one is unanimous. That one carries, thank you. Okay, so that's taken care of. Okay, I see Alderman Walker has her hand raised. Did you have another area in the amendment or the proposal you wanted to address?
Yes, and I'm not sure, so perhaps someone or the city attorney can find it. We have a number of properties that display private properties that are doing business and have signage. Do we address that here?
So I had a similar question for her and did send her a message about that, just so that I could be clear. And if I'm not mistaken, Cassandra, we were going to expand the definition under peddlers, solicitors, and vendors. And then also, I want to say it was section M, item M. No, yes, M5.
M5.
Mhm. Which is the restrictions applicable to all vendors. But, and I know you sent me an email, Cassandra, about this particular one.
How do we want to change that?
Well, oh, you know what? It was not under that. It was under the business license, which was going to address that. Here we go. Sorry,
Yeah,
that's-
because we have private properties that are, you know, insurance, marketing, there's a garage and hauling place. I think that one's commercial. I saw another one just the other day. There's a nail salon, there's a welding place.
Yeah.
It needs to have signage and are residential. So how do we address that?
Well, and as soon as I find, because we talked, here we go, vendor ordinance. So the discussion was, she says, retailer.
You know, Mayor, I don't think I addressed the particular sign question you had because of the sign ordinance. But looking at the sign ordinance is maybe the best ordinance to address the signage.
My point was these places are performing businesses out of their homes and happen to have signage, so they're active. It's not a business owner that's the residence, but that's where it's registered to, but their business is somewhere in San Antonio.
And Cassandra, what we were discussing was including a definition to talk about those type of businesses. So we have businesses where people work at their home. That is their business. They're either a home-based business working remotely for someone else, but there is no one who is coming to their residence to conduct business. So that was going to be one definition. And then there was the reverse of that. So a business that has signage up would be identified separately. And
Right.
then there would be restrictions for each of those, depending on what type of business they fall into. That's what I was looking for, Cassandra, was the, you said, I think the general business permits, maybe another discussion about types of businesses would be required. But I think we need to.
Right, because the welding occurs at the house, you know, the people come to the one place for insurance, people come for nails,
Right.
you know, it's doing a business out of a residence.
I
So
see
there's
Alderman, go ahead, Ms. Ortiz, go ahead.
there's the definition for home occupation, which is number 13. That is a proposed amendment. And then that home occupation are those people who operate their business in their home. It's incidental to their residence. It's not the main purpose of their residence. And they don't have, the only persons on the property or premises at the time are those involved or working for the business, and family members who live on the property, not clients. So if someone is operating like an alarm business, maybe from their home, no clients are at their home, that would be permissible, and it's not regulated. But if someone is operating a nail salon and those clients are coming, then that's a different type of business that may need to be addressed through that's more than a home occupation, or that goes beyond the scope of a home occupation. That's a different type of business where the city would need to regulate it by zoning, or regulate it in some other method where those clients are not allowed to go to the home unless they pay a permit, or unless they pay a fee or get the required permits.
So I'm hearing, what I'm hearing is that
Okay,
these,
David, Alderman Tremblay, I'm gonna put you on pause for a moment.
okay,
Alderman Fillinger has had his hand up, so I'm gonna recognize him first, please.
Yeah, I think that the home businesses with signs that are receiving the public would not be under vendors and peddlers ordinance. Possibly we need to address that through either planning and zoning or the sign ordinance. You know, at some point we need to have those people apply for and receive a business permit or business license. But I don't see them coming under the heading of vendors, solicitors, and peddlers. I think that's a separate discussion we should have under a different agenda item.
And Mayor, that's what I was also trying to convey in the last email where we were talking about it, that it probably would be outside the scope of this
Ordinance.
and that would be a separate. It can be included in this ordinance, but given what this ordinance currently addresses, I would suggest a better notice on the agenda.
Okay, so back to Alderman Walker. Does that answer your question?
Not really, because last time we had discussed placing restrictions on residential properties acting as vendors, and the way talks about services, soliciting. The peddler, solicitor, and/or vendor shall mean any person, firm, or corporation, whether as owner, agent, consignee, or employee, whether a resident of the city or not, who engages in a business of selling or offering for sale food, beverages, goods, services, wares, and merchandise. It's the services that I'm struggling with. They're offering a service. They're doing it from their home. And we've said elsewhere that if it's a residential, they cannot do that.
Well, no. If you continue reading that, they're offering that. You know, it says wares and merchandise for future delivery, and who, in furtherance of such purposes, hires, leases, uses, or occupies any stand, motor vehicle, tent, or from his or her person. It doesn't say anything about from their home.
It doesn't say within their home. Okay, so
No.
that's the difference.
Yes, peddlers, solicitors, and vendors are different than
Then home business.
Correct.
All right, got, I see that. I see that
Okay.
now.
Okay, so does that answer your question on that particular one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I see Alderman Tremblay has his hand raised. Go ahead.
Right, I just kind of, I'll echo what Alderman Fillinger stated, and we just need to address home businesses on a different ordinance, not so much as an individual who sits at home and does medical billing and works out of their home is, I mean, you've got so many people working out of their home right now who
Right.
could be classified as home occupation. So what we need to address are the actual businesses that are advertising, such as selling insurance, doing nails, welding, whatever. We need to address those businesses through planning and zoning as well, but
Well, and
not to include it in vendors.
exactly. And I think
Right.
that they are addressed in the master plan based on the land use. And
Right.
so if they want to operate, you know, we now have an approved master plan. So if they want to operate those businesses that are contrary to the land use that has been approved, then they have to go before planning and zoning. So I think
Exactly.
it's addressed that way.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else on this particular one? Okay, so I have a couple of comments on this one. If we go back to Article 1, this would be on page 2, the purpose. And Cassandra, maybe I'm just reading this incorrectly. Right after the red line that's been, where it says within the city, is necessary to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. And I just made a comment of whom. Do we need to further expand on that? Because that looked like an end of a sentence to me.
Wait, which one are you reading? The,
Section 1 under peddlers, vendors, and solicitors, the purpose. And I'm on the red line version.
oh, okay.
So there's the original part is lined out. Then it says reasonable regulation of peddlers, vendors, and solicitors within the city is necessary to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of.
Of the citizens of Sandy Oaks. That wasn't changed from the original ordinance adopted, but that would probably add more clarification.
Yeah.
We-
Okay.
We could probably just delete the word "the." Necessary to protect public health, safety, and welfare.
Well, that's a much easier way to do that. Okay, and on that particular paragraph, that's the only issue or question I had on that one. So would someone like to make a motion on that one?
I'll make a motion to amend Section 1, Item A, purpose, to delete the word "the" in the first sentence where it says reasonable regulation of vendors, peddlers, vendors, solicitors is necessary to protect, strike the word "the,"
Okay,
public health, safety, and welfare.
okay, so we have a motion. I see Mayor Pro Tem Rapino has his hand raised. Go ahead, sir.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second by Alderman Rapino. By a show of hands and an audible, please, all in favor say aye.
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 I see all 4 hands. Okay, so that one is unanimous. Okay. And then Cassandra, now we're going to get into some of the meat of our other conversation where we were talking about definitions of, under the definition for peddlers, solicitors, and vendors. It says peddlers, solicitors, and vendors shall mean any person, firm, or corporation, whether as owner, agent, consignee, or employee, whether a resident of the city or not, who engages in a business of selling or offering for sale food, beverages, goods, services, wares, and merchandise, or engages in soliciting orders for the sale of goods, services, wares, and merchandise for future delivery, and who, in furtherance of such purposes, hires, leases, uses, or occupies, and I circled any stand. And I wanted to know if we needed to clarify that to perhaps include exclusive of a landlord-tenant agreement on commercial property, if that would apply here or not in the definition.
Right.
So the definition of retailer covers that.
Okay,
But so just to make them consistent, we could also include that to exclude that category of people who are maybe renting or leasing land or leasing the property for those purposes or for commercial purposes.
so it's exclusive of any rental or lease of commercial property.
Or you could just include instead of that, and excludes, or this definition excludes retailers. And then there's also the definition of retailer. So instead of having to add that, the additional.
Okay,
Or this definition does not include retailers or peddlers, solicitors, and something to that effect where you just address the term retailers. And if that term retailers is ever redefined in some way, you don't have to go back and make those consistent again.
so since we have a definition for retailer, I don't know then that we need to address it in this first one, because we're just talking about definitions. So I think we're good on that first one, unless anyone else had any questions or comments they wanted to make on that. Okay. So then we will move on to. We took care of.
Mayor?
Wait, who is that?
Alderman Tremblay?
Oh, David. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Going back to that sentence, the paragraph where you're defining peddlers,
Yes.
solicitors, and vendors, that last sentence, second to the last line, where you've got such purposes, hires, leases, uses, or occupies any stand, motor vehicle, tent, or from his or her person. I'm not clear on, I think you're missing a word there or something.
No. So they're walking around carrying a bag of widgets. They're selling widgets out of their pocket.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it refers to.
Okay.
They would be defined as a peddler, solicitor, or vendor.
Okay.
Okay, so the only other area that I really had a concern with here was on section M5 under prohibited areas. And I just wanted to make sure we were clear here on what the intent of this is. I made a note that section G, I put section G with a question mark because that deals with the issuance of license and the payment of fees. So section G reads, not later than 30 days after the filing of a completed application for a vendor's license, the applicant shall be notified by the city clerk of the decision of the issuance or denial of the license. If it is found that the applicant has fully complied with all the provisions of the article and is operating in a public place, the said applicant will be required to pay a license fee in the amount of $1,800 for such license. The purpose of the fee is to partly defray the expenses of surveillance and inspection of the premises and property for the use of the license and the enforcement of the provision of this article. And so when we look at the prohibited areas, that reads, A vending license issued pursuant to this ordinance is valid only in a commercial area, on commercial property, or in public places of the city of Sandy Oaks. The city shall prohibit vendors from selling in a commercial area, on commercial property, in public places within the city if it determines such prohibitions are necessary for the protection of public health and safety. Vendor stands are prohibited within the 20 feet of a fire hydrant, a fire escape loading zone, or the driveway of a fire station, police station, or hospital. So I wanted to, because this has always been kind of the crux of this issue. And remember, in the definitions, we are talking about vendors, peddlers, and solicitors. We are not talking about retailers. That's the difference in the definition here. So I don't think that we need to amend anything here. Cassandra, is that correct? The fee would only apply to a vendor, peddler, or solicitor who can only operate in the public space. They cannot operate on a commercial property. Is that correct, Cassandra?
My understanding from the last meeting was that they were going to be allowed to operate on a commercial property, but the fee would only apply, and public spaces, but the fee would only apply to those in public spaces. So if it's only going to be public places, then there do not need to be any amendment.
Okay.
But if they're going to be allowed in commercial places, this would allow them on commercial places, and it essentially restricts or prohibits any vending on a residential property, unless it's a home occupation, it's a business run out of the home.
Okay. And so the purpose of that discussion was to encourage anyone who wants to operate a business to engage with our commercial property owners so that they enter into a landlord-tenant type agreement, whether that's a rent or a lease, to provide whatever services or goods that they want to. The intent of the fee, the $1,800 fee, is to address use of public space, right-of-ways, city property. That's where the fee would apply.
The fee would still apply if they're operating on a commercial, in a commercial area. Regardless if they're in a commercial area or in a public area, the fee, the license is still required.
No, we don't want that.
Except if they're a retailer.
Except that they're a retailer. You become a retailer by entering into a
Sure.
tenant.
A vendor, if a vendor wants to lease space on a commercial lot, they still need to have a license.
Well, a vendor has to do a number of things. They have to get health inspections and tax certificates, and I mean, they have to do everything else that every other business has to do.
Right.
They just don't have to have
The city.
What do you mean?
They don't have to pay because they're in a rental agreement, a retail agreement. They don't have to pay the $1,800
No,
fee.
they're not, but they're not retailers, they're vendors. They're still going to need a vendor's license from the city.
If they're a retailer, they're not a vendor. That's why we have the code
Correct.
definitions.
Correct.
So vendors would not be, and I guess we would need to modify this number 5 here. It says the vending license is valid only in a commercial area on commercial property.
Or in public places.
Or in public places. And
So-
then it says, wait. And then it says the city shall prohibit vendors from selling in a commercial area on commercial property within the city if it determines that such prohibitions are necessary. So, Cassandra, this is the one that I thought we needed to modify and not allow vendors to operate on commercial properties. to address this to only deal with vendors in the public space.
So is the intent to have vendors though that are on commercial properties that are not retailers, they still need to have a license? That's my understanding, or that's how this is, I believe, is written, that a vendor on a commercial property that doesn't have a rental or lease agreement would still need to obtain a license, but they don't pay a fee. And if that's not clear to the council, it's probably not clear. It probably won't be clear to a citizen or anybody else reading that ordinance. So maybe it just needs to be reworded to make it clear. But that was the intent behind that wording, was that a vendor operating on a commercial property would still be required to have a license, but not required to pay the fee. Whereas a vendor on a residential property is prohibited outright.
No,
Alderman Fillinger's had his hand raised.
Okay, yes, so the chair recognizes Alderman Fillinger.
Okay, I'm gonna pass on that telephone call. But as I'm reading this, if what we normally call a vendor rents a commercial space on commercial property, they would not need a vendor's license. They would need a business license, a retailer's license. Is that correct? Thank you.
That's my understanding.
That is true.
So if the taco truck rents a space in the old Jack's Grocery parking lot, he will be required to get a retail food establishment license from the city.
You would need a business license from the city.
Okay, that's
In addition to all the other things he would.
all
The
the
health,
other
fire.
health certificates,
Yes.
fire insurance, liability, and everything else he's required.
Yes. Now, one of the discussions that I was having with Ms. Ortiz was the difference between rental and lease. A lease is typically a term for a year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever. And rental can be more intermittent. And so the question then became that maybe we should address renting space. And I will give you an example. Cassandra, can I share what Shama and I have been discussing? Is that appropriate here?
Share what you and I were discussing?
No, what Shama.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so Miss Shama is the lady who purchased Jack's Corner, and the fruit stand has gone in there, and there's going to be a pizza place that's going in there, expected to open around September 1st. But over and above that, she and I have been having a conversation about creating something. So if you've ever been to Austin or downtown north side of San Antonio, you would see what they call food courts, truck courts. And so you get vendors who come in and set up. Now, what we're not encouraging is the mobile side of that, but these individuals would have a lease for a designated area, and the expectation is that we have different businesses who want to come in and enter into a rental or lease agreement with her to set up on her land. We're talking about picnic tables and, cleared area and making it, inviting. But the challenge then becomes, do we want to set a minimum on a rental agreement? Remember, a lease is typically termed. A rental can be short term. It can be month to month. It could be a week. But what we're trying to avoid here are mobile vendors or those who are kind of just want to come in and sell once in a while. Do we want to set a limit on a rental piece of this on commercial property? Otherwise, if it's outside of that time frame, then the permit fee would apply. And I see Alderman Tremblay has his hand raised, so please go ahead, sir.
Okay, I just don't want to get vendors and peddlers confused or misunderstood as far as being saying they're retailers or they're going on commercial property. I think the item 5 there pretty much says you're authorizing a license is required if you're operating on commercial area, on commercial property, or in a public place. The only time it would be if the city says that that it's unsafe, or but whether they operate, I mean, there's no other place they can operate but on commercial property or public places. How many public places does the city have? We have the park. That's it. So in order for them to operate within the city, it would have to be on commercial property, be it Jack's Corner, be it in the Dollar General parking lot, or wherever. And how are we to enforce rental or leasing agreements? I think if a vendor wants to come in the city, they're going to operate within a commercial area or public place. They pay the license fee, and that's it. I mean.
And so there's two things with that, and I know Cassandra has her hand up. We need to distinguish between a license, a business license, and a permit fee. And it's the business license is different, and the permit fee is the $1,800.
What is the fee for the business license?
We have not determined what that fee will be.
Mm-hmm.
But the point here is that the city has maxed out on available space for commercial enterprises. So we have to work with those who have commercial properties to come up with creative and innovative ways for those who want to enter into businesses here to be able to do so, to be mutually beneficial to both the property owner and the business themselves. So if they are truly working towards being a legitimate business, then this is kind of a no-brainer for everyone. But if they're looking to just set up to sell one time, I'll give you an example. I don't know who it is, but during the holidays, you typically see gift baskets that will set up in the right of way. That's a vendor. That's not a business. That's not a retailer. That's a vendor setting up in the right of way. So I see Cassandra has her hand up. Go ahead.
Just, I guess, to section 5, it could be a little confusing because it's titled prohibited areas, but then the first sentence is authorized areas, or talks about authorized areas. So either a change to that title as permitted areas, or also including that residential areas for vending is prohibited, to make that clear, if that's the intent of council.
Right, because I'm saying what we're saying is that vendors can operate in commercial areas. That's fine, but yet we're not saying that they can't operate in a residential area. Although we've defined the residential area, it's not listed as a prohibited area. It's not. We probably need to have authorized areas and prohibited areas. So under section 5, prohibited areas should be right-of-ways and residential properties. And authorized areas would be an add-on stating that just the way this is listed here under the prohibited areas to include the fire hydrant areas. But again, the license needs to stay in place unless they can show that they're a registered business.
So, Alderman Tremblay, define, are we talking a business license or a permit fee? When you said
A permit fee should be required for any vendor coming into the city wanting to sell what we've defined as a vendor as.
Okay. Because you said license, and I wanted to make sure you were truly talking about a business license, not the.
No, well, we haven't, unless someone comes in and says they are actually a business and they're going to rent some space from Shama,
Mm-hmm.
then that falls on Shama. Shama has a business. She's not actually, is she registered as a business? She's renting space for a business.
She is not registered as, we don't have any of our.
Businesses registered to operate.
We did not require that of Damon, and we didn't require it of the Valero.
Right, but although they're paying the city of Sandy Oaks property taxes, we're collecting taxes from those entities.
From those entities, yes.
Right. Anyone else coming in, we have no way of knowing that they are a business. So if they come in and they set up, how do we collect taxes from them? And are we collecting property tax from Shama based on commercial? That is, it's a commercial property.
Yes, we are. Now, to answer your first question, there was reference in here about them needing to, on their application for their business license. No, it's not in there. I thought I read, Cassandra can probably help me out, where it talks about their tax certificate, their health, that's all part of the application. Here we go. Item
Number
E.
6.
Number 6. So it says a copy of the vendor's current state of Texas sales tax permit, together with written documentation from the state comptroller that all sales taxes that may be due and owing by vendor have been fully paid. So they still have to go through the application process, and we're talking about vendors. We're not addressing the commercial property owners.
Okay, clarify that, because I think Mr. Tremblay and I might have the same challenge. This is the application for the permit.
Cassandra, is it the business license or the permit?
It's for the license. I think license and permit are used interchangeably in this ordinance. It's called a license, but it's called a permit fee. So I think for the purposes of this ordinance, they're one and the same.
So it's the 1,800. The application is for the $1,800. I think what I hear Mr. Tremblay asking is, how would we know the state of Texas sales tax information from retailers who are renting space from a commercial property?
Because we can call the state comptroller and they would answer that question for us. But we're asking these vendors to provide that.
But that's only for the $1,800 license/permit application, not the retailers.
Correct. But if they're a retailer, then the onus of that falls on Shama or whoever the property owner is.
So she would have to be the collecting entity of the taxing.
No, she would not be the collecting entity.
I'm sorry. I mean, she would be responsible for seeing that they have a current state of Texas tax permit, sales tax permit.
I would say that is correct. Cassandra, your thoughts on that?
I don't know if she would be as a landlord unless that was written into any type of lease or rental agreement. It would just go with the business's duty under the law to be filing with the comptroller. and paying the
Right.
sales taxes to the comptroller.
Right. And Alderman Fillinger, I see your hand is raised. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, we're kind of batting all the way around on our discussion here, so I'd like to make a motion that where am I at here? Item 5, where we have prohibited areas and then go into approved areas. I would like to insert after 5 and before prohibited, approved and prohibited areas. And I'm making a motion that we insert approved and prohibited areas after the 5 in that article.
So instead of it reading prohibited areas, you want it to read approved and prohibited areas.
Yes, ma'am. The first line is, where they can and where they can't. So
Okay, right.
that would clarify that item.
okay.
Yeah, I'll second that.
May I ask what section that was under again?
It's number 5, M5.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a motion by Alderman Fillinger and a second by Alderman Tremblay to amend item M5. The very first sentence replace prohibited areas to read approved and prohibited areas. Is that correct, gentlemen?
Yes.
Okay, by a show of hands and an audible please, all in favor say aye.
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 Okay, that is unanimous. Okay, Mr. Fillinger, did you have something else that you wanted to add on that?
Not on that one.
Okay, so we were still talking about the definitions as they pertain to this particular section here. So the city shall prohibit vendors from selling in a commercial area on commercial property in public places within the city if it determines those prohibitions are necessary for the protection of public health and safety. So when we talk about a vending license, and maybe that's where we're getting stuck, is the definition of a vending license, a business license, and a permit. And I know Cassandra mentioned that those two are interchangeable, but do we need to define that?
Mayor, I don't think we're addressing businesses here. We're only addressing vendors and peddlers. Businesses are not even addressed in the ordinance. We're not talking about an established business. These are folks that come in and are doing temporary business in the city, peddlers, vendors.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, that what we're saying in this M5 is that a vendor pays the $1,800 fee, and they are approved, it's an approved area, a commercial property, they can set up there on a commercial property using this permit. Is that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Cassandra, did you want to chime in on that?
I just, since you were on section 5, just there's a typo in the second sentence that says in commercial property area, on commercial property area, in public places. That or should not have been struck. So it should be more commercial property. And I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
But I
Same
also,
section 5?
Yes,
Yes.
section 5. It's
Okay.
right before where it says in public places that is not struck through, the word or.
Or, yeah, okay.
and I
Okay,
guess also in addition to Alderman Tremblay's comment, as Alderman Fillinger had made the comment also earlier that I guess any business license for a retailer would be a separate discussion or a separate ordinance authorizing retail businesses the license to operate within the city.
okay. All right, Mayor Pro Tem Rapino, I see your hand is raised. Go ahead, sir.
It must have been an accident. I'm sorry. I'm good.
Okay.
I do think we have a definition problem, though. We got too many. How's anybody going to understand this if we can't? I'm kind of thinking that we might want to revamp this thing.
So that's why we're discussing it.
I know. I'm not saying that. I don't know.
I think it pretty much, it explains itself. If someone wants to, they have a license and they can come to an agreement with a commercial property owner such as Shama or Dollar General or whatever, and they can set up in their parking lot for whatever period of time. As long as they have the permit from the city, that's fine. If they want to set up on the corner on the commercial property where the guy used to sit with a trailer and sell barbecue, if the property owner is okay with that and they have the permit, that's fine. I don't see, as long as they're not blocking a driveway or road or they got a fire going there and they're cooking out there and the grass is 2 feet tall, then it's a hazard. Then we can prevent them from doing that. But I don't see an issue with them operating on commercial property, be it Valero, whatever. If they're not parked, if they're parked in a fire lane, it's a hazard. We can stop that. I think we're doing the right thing. The way that it's written, I think it gives us more leverage to correct a situation that isn't safe.
Okay, Alderman Walker, I see your hand is raised.
I guess I'm cut off again.
You're not cut off. I think Alderman Rapino was trying to say
Oh,
something.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
Go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Alderman Rapino. Go ahead.
All I'm saying is I agree with Alderman Tremblay, but everybody doesn't read it that way, and that's why we're stuck.
Correct.
So what would you recommend that the paragraph read?
I would just leave it the way it is.
Okay.
Okay.
To me, it is that businesses don't have to pay the vendor's license, but a vendor does if he's on an approved area. That's what it says to me, but am I reading it wrong? Or?
Say that again, Rapino, please.
I'm just saying that it tells me that anybody that is a vendor that is in an approved area must pay the $1,800 vendor license. And so I don't understand why we are stuck.
I would agree with your assessment of what that reads. So I think we're in agreement on that.
So that's all I'm saying.
Okay. So other than just changing the heading from prohibited to approved and prohibited areas, and then adding the word "or" back in there, we should be good on that.
I still have a comment.
I'm getting to you as soon as I'm finished with him. Let him finish. I want to make sure he has an opportunity to speak. Is that acceptable? I'm sorry?
I yield.
Oh, okay. Okay, Alderman Walker has her hand raised. Please go ahead.
Okay, regarding the same section and the same discussion, I think we need to clarify somewhere in there. We haven't resolved the difference between the retailer and the vendor. It's not stated clearly in that paragraph. And I think we're still.
There's a definition for retailer.
Yes, I realize that. And I think it conflicts with what Mr. Tremblay is saying and what is in paragraph M. I think we need to clarify that retailer definition and put it under approved, well, in one, we're saying if they rent or lease from a commercial property, they don't have to pay the $1,800. However, under the approved and prohibited areas, we are saying that they do if they are on commercial area, commercial property, or public places.
Because the definition of vendor and retailer are different.
Okay, I want to make sure we're all on the same page with that, because what I heard Mr. Tremblay say was if they rented space from Dollar General or Shama or somebody else, then they would owe the $1,800.
If they are a vendor, yes.
If they are renting space from them, they are not a vendor, correct? I understand that
I'm
correctly?
going to ask Cassandra to please chime in on that, please.
Alderwoman Walker, I don't know if it clarifies it for you, but if you go to section 1C, where it says license required, and there's a new exception 2, and then it specifically excludes retailers, the home occupations and retailers from that license and fee.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page, because I thought I heard Alderman Tremblay say if they were renting space from, say, Dollar General or Shama, they would still owe that $1,800. But if they're renting space, they are a retailer, so they would not. They are an exception to it.
And again, that's why I proposed that we expand or put in a definition for a minimum rental period. You know, you want to rent it for a day, a week,
A month.
Yeah.
Minimum of a month.
To define what is a vendor and what is a retailer. I mean, if you're a retailer, you're in business. You're in business all the time. If you're a vendor, you're an occasional vendor. You're occasionally selling when it's convenient, when it's seasonal, when it's whatever. So that's the distinction that we were attempting to get to with this ordinance.
So perhaps we need to add a definition of time frame for rental or leasing.
That was one of the things that I had suggested
So-
earlier.
So that
Go ahead.
So that would be that would come under number 12, section 1B. The definition for retailer is a person or business that rents, leases, that enters into a rental or lease agreement for no less than 6 months, or owns space in a commercial area for the sale of goods, merchandise, or services from the business to a consumer. I'd say a minimum of 6 months, but.
And I see Charles has his hand up. Do you?
Yeah, I'm hearing what Alderman Walker says, and if she would make that in the form of a motion, I would second it.
Well, there you go.
Okay, I move that we change item number 12, definition of retailer, to retailer is a person or business that rents or leases or that enters into a rental or lease agreement for no less than 6 months, or owns space in a commercial area for the sale of goods, merchandise, or services from the business to a consumer.
Okay, so do that one more time slowly, because I'm adding.
Okay.
We mentioned entering into an agreement. Okay.
That enters into a rental or lease agreement for no less than 6 months. And then the rest remains the same. or own space
Or
in
own.
commercial area for the sale of goods, merchandise, or services.
For not less than 6 months.
Right.
Okay, so we have a
So-
motion. Go ahead.
So we're clear, goods, merchandise excludes food. Food would not be included in retail.
Well, we're not talking retail, we're talking vendors.
We're talking retail, we're defining retailer.
Well, we're defining retailer, you're correct. But they could, oh, I see what you're saying, for where it says sale of goods, merchandise, or services.
Merchandise is used in its broadest sense and shall include property of every kind.
Wait, say it again?
Number 7, the definition of merchandise is used in its broadest sense and shall include property of every kind. We might need the city attorney to clarify that.
Property of every kind, I don't think is not food. Food is a consumable item, not property.
Goods.
I think maybe, I'm seeing no definition of goods and maybe including a similar definition for goods, but also including food, food and beverage or consumable items.
I'm just wondering if we just could not expand on the definition for retailer to include that.
Right.
You could also do that.
So,
I think first we have to address the amendment that offered, or do we amend the amendment before we pass it?
so right now, what I understand, we have a motion on the table by Alderman Walker, and we do not have a second at this moment. So I think we can offer her to pull that back and represent it. Is that correct?
I think Alderman Fillinger had said that if she made it a motion, he would second it. And then she made it a motion, so he's.
I see. Even though he didn't actually say he seconded it after she made the motion.
Oh, well, you know,
Maybe
while we're
rescind that.
discussing, while we're discussing, let Alderman Walker add any additional amendments he wants to, and then we can move from there.
There you go.
All right. So I move that we alter item 12, retailer, definition of retailer is a person or business that enters into a rental or lease agreement for no less than 6 months or owns space in a commercial area for the sale of food, beverages, goods, services, wares, and merchandise.
Foods,
And I would second that amendment.
foods, beverages, goods.
So now we're adding food to retailer?
Yes.
We cannot eliminate that unless we're going to reclassify the Mexican food restaurant as something other than retail.
It's a food establishment, it's not a retailer. If you say you're in retail, you're in sales. You're not selling food. I just don't agree with adding food to a definition of a retailer.
Well, sure, they're a retailer. Well,
They're not a wholesaler, they're a retailer. There's not.
they're open to the public for purchase, they're retail.
Right.
Retailers typically collect sales tax, whereas wholesalers normally do not collect sales tax, and that's the broad and legal definition of what they do. If you know, if you're selling, you're either a wholesale business or a manufacturer or a retailer. If you're selling to the public, you're a retail establishment. So we have a motion and a second.
We
to
do.
add.
So let me read that. We have a motion by Alderman Walker to amend item 12, definition of retailer. Is a person or business that enters into an agreement to rent or lease space for no less than 6 months, or own space in a commercial area for the sale of food, beverages, goods, merchandise, or services from the business to a consumer.
I think I heard the word wares in it too. Am I incorrect, Alderman Walker?
But isn't that goods?
I don't
Goods
know.
and wares
I
are
just
the
heard the
same
word
thing.
wares.
I was reading right off of section 6, food, beverages, goods, services, wares, and merchandise.
Goods, services, wares. Okay.
So tell me again how you want number 12 to read.
Food, beverages, goods, services, wares, and merchandise.
I'm not going to necessarily have it in that order because I ran out of space, but we'll add it. So the motion by Alderman Walker is item 12, definition of retailer is a person or business that enters into a rental or lease agreement of no less than 6 months or own space in a commercial area for the sale of food, beverages, goods, merchandise, wares, or services from the business to a consumer. And we have a second by Alderman Fillinger. So, is there any further discussion on this item? Then I will ask for a show of hands and an audible for all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? Okay, we have 3 in favor and 1 opposed. And so this motion will carry on that particular item. So 3-1. Okay, are there any other items in this proposed amended ordinance that need to be discussed? And I see Alderman Tremblay has his hand up. Go ahead, sir.
He lowered it now.
Oh, okay. All right, with that said, would someone like to make a motion for approval of this proposed ordinance as amended? I see Alderman Fillinger has his hand raised. Please go ahead, sir.
Yes, I make a motion that we accept the ordinance as amended.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Fillinger to accept the ordinance as amended. Do we have a second? I see Mayor Pro Tem Rapino has his hand up.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a
Yes,
second by Alderman Rapino. By a show of hands and an audible, please. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, it is 3-1, and the motion does carry. Okay. That was long, but not terribly painful. Okay, let's work through these last items here and we can call it an evening. Item 5A, Parks and Recreation. Discuss and or possible action on painting the interior walls of the park restrooms. This was brought by Alderman Rapino and Fillinger.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve no more than $300 for painting the interior of the restrooms.
If I may,
Yes, sir.
this is should be an in-house function if they're public works guys. I've actually asked them multiple times to just go ahead and get some paint. They have a budget for parks and recreation. The park has a budget, so does public works. They just need to go down and buy some paint and paint this.
Okay, so Alderman Tremblay, I know that in concept that is indeed true, and in any other year, I would not have an issue with that. However, we have a real issue with the pandemic, and in order to ensure that we do not exceed the overall budget, all expenses need to be approved. And so this is just a motion to approve that to happen. The other thing is we only have one person who is available to do public works, and he's also our animal control officer. So it's that project would not be something that he would necessarily be able to take on himself without an interruption. A call comes in, a bite or whatever. So we needed to be considerate of possibly contracting that out, or, and I'm going to turn it over to Alderman Fillinger in just a moment, but I think that they have a possible solution to that. So Alderman Fillinger, please go ahead.
Yeah, we just, I'm getting feedback here. As we discussed it in the Parks Advisory Committee, this is just the amount to paint. It wasn't for contracting and it wasn't for public works. The Parks Committee will ask for volunteers, and if we get no volunteers, I will paint the building. Poor Chris has plenty to do.
And so with that being said, what I would like to do is ask Alderman Rapino to rescind his original motion and to represent it to include the reference to the materials only.
I'll do that. I rescind the original motion and I'll make a new motion. Well, I guess we have to vote on rescinding it. Well, we never did vote on it, so I'll just rescind that original motion to spend not more than $300 on painting the interior of the restrooms. And what I will now move on is to spend not more than $300 for supplies to paint the interior of the restroom and ask for volunteers to complete the job. So I guess that's the motion.
Okay. So we have a motion by Alderman Rapino to approve the purchase of materials not to exceed $300 for the purpose of painting the interior walls of the park restrooms and to ask for volunteers to assist. Do we have a second on that?
Yes, I'll second that motion.
Okay, I see Alderman Fillinger. Okay, we have a second. Alderman Rapino, will you put your hand down first and then you can put it back up in a minute if you want to?
Well, I was trying to say.
Oh, you need to say something?
No, I said I was just trying to save.
Saving some time. Okay. So we have a motion and a second by a hand raise and an audible, please. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, that is unanimous. Okay. That motion carries. Thank you. Let's move on to item 6A. Animal control, discussing a possible action on nominations for Animal Shelter Advisory Committee. I put this on the agenda, but this was actually presented to me by Alderman Walker. So since this is her item, I'm going to ask her to take over the discussion.
Yes, this was just, we had nominated citizens to be on the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee, and we have heard from a veterinarian and an individual from an animal welfare organization that I'd like to nominate to the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee. If you remember correctly, those are required positions for the committee. And that would be Dr. Hill and Lynette Federspell.
And do they serve in a particular capacity, or are they just members of the Shelter Advisory Committee?
Dr. Hill would be the veterinarian that is required.
Okay.
And Lynette Federspell is, I'm not sure
The
exactly how he
animal
phrased
welfare-
it.
The animal welfare.
Representative from an animal welfare organization.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a nomination by Alderman Walker to add the names of Dr. Hill as the veterinarian and Lynette Federspill as the animal welfare representative to the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
So we have a second by Alderman Rapino. Okay, by show of hands and an audible, please. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Missing a hand.
Aye.
There we go. Okay. That is unanimous. And Alderman Walker, are there some specific notifications that you need to make to those individuals?
Yes.
Okay, and you will take care of that?
Myself or Chris will, yes.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Okay, item 6B, discuss and or possible action on Alderman Walker's resignation from the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee. So we did receive a written letter from Alderman Walker as a formal resignation from the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee. And this would be effective immediately. And to be honest, I understand her reasons why, even though she didn't put them in here, but it's because the Shelter Advisory Committee is not truly 100% up and functioning at this point. She's done a fabulous job of bringing it to this point, but is choosing to step away before it becomes a functional part of the animal control program. So I do understand that, and I do want to publicly recognize all of the hard work that Alderman Walker has done to get that particular advisory committee established. So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Do you have, well, we won't talk about that. Well, let me ask Cassandra on this one. So we are discussing and possible action on her resignation. Would that allow for including a nomination for replacement, or is that even necessary? I think we do need a representative from the city council on that that committee. Is that correct?
Yes. Right now it would just be the resignation, not the nomination for her replacement yet.
Okay. Okay, so do we have a motion here to accept the resignation of Alderman Walker from the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee? I see Alderman Fillinger has raised his hand. Please proceed, sir. You're on mute.
I'm terribly sorry. because we wear no balls and chains, I move that we accept the nominate or the resignation of Alderman Walker as chair of the Animal Control Advisory Committee.
Nope, nope, nope. It's the Animal Shelter Advisory.
I'm sorry, Animal Shelter Advisory Committee.
And this is different from the Animal Control Advisory Committee. This is actually what we
Yeah.
refer to as the Shelter Board, if you will.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then I see Alderman Rapino has his hand raised. Go ahead, sir.
But yes, with regret, I will sign on to that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Fillinger and a second by Alderman Rapino to accept the resignation of Alderman Walker from the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee. By a show of hands and audible, please. All in favor, say aye.
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 I'm listening still to my
Aye.
thing.
One more, I'm missing somebody. Oh, CJ can't vote. Okay, so we have 3 in favor and 1 abstaining. So that motion carries. Okay. And again, thank you, Ms. Walker, for all of your hard work on that. Okay, item number 6C. Discuss and a possible action on nomination of parliamentarian for Animal Control Advisory Committee. So again, this is one that Alderman Walker wanted to place on the agenda. I'm going to turn this over to her and let her talk through what her expectation is from this.
I want to nominate a member from the City Council to the Animal Control Advisory Committee to act as parliamentarian. And if I need to make a motion, I can.
Well, I think the question is, what is a parliamentarian? We don't have that anywhere else, and why is this particular committee needing one?
And Cassandra has her hand raised as well.
Yes, Cassandra, go ahead.
Actually, I was going to, in response to your earlier question, under item 6A, if that would allow the council to nominate somebody from council to replace Alderman Walker, if council wants to do that tonight, going back to 6A.
6B.
No, 6A, possible nominations to the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee.
Yeah, she nominated Dr. Hill and Lynette Fetterspill.
You're on mute, Mayor.
How did you know? My lips were moving and you didn't hear me, right? What she's saying is that when we probably should have done those 6B first and then 6A. And because in the order that we did it, we couldn't nominate somebody because she was still in place.
So now we can go back to 6A and nominate. Replacement. Mr. Fillinger has his hand.
Alderman Fillinger, please go ahead.
I'm behind here. I was going to address the parliamentarian, but let's wherever we want to go. I'm good.
Okay, so I agree. We've already brought up the parliamentarian. Let's do that first, and then we'll possibly go back to 6A. So the question that was on the table had to do with what is the role of a parliamentarian and why is one advised for only this committee, because we don't have that in any other fashion. So Alderman Fillinger does have his hand raised.
Yes, actually, the Parks Advisory Committee elected me as parliamentarian the first meeting, and I have called I have called Robert's Rules of Orders in some of our meetings. The Parks Committee is pretty informal, but sometimes they have to be brought back to the table. When people wander off the agenda, that needs to be addressed. When we have a motion and an amendment to an amendment, that needs to be addressed. Because we don't have the city attorney present, we have either the chair has to be the parliamentarian. Alderman Rapino didn't feel comfortable with that and asked me to be the parliamentarian. However, as I read 6C, it's actually appointing a chairperson for the Animal Control Advisory Committee. Unless I have the wrong agenda in
You have
front
the
of
wrong
me.
agenda.
Okay, I'm terribly sorry.
Yeah, this one reads, discuss and/or possible action on nomination of parliamentarian for Animal Control Advisory Committee.
Okay, then again, this would not be a first. So that,
This came before council before for the park. I don't remember.
No, it didn't come before council. What he's saying is that one of the Parks Committee meetings that there was a motion to add Alderman Fillinger as the parliamentarian for that Parks Committee.
Okay, so we have to go before council to add one for the Animal Control Committee?
I don't have a council member.
I don't remember.
I'm sorry.
But I don't remember, I understand where Ms. Shelton's coming from. I don't recall that position of parliamentarian being brought before city council. It was brought before that
the
committee.
yes, and I would think that the committee would make a decision whether to have a parliamentarian or not. And if they decide to, then possibly it needs to come in front of the council, or we can leave it to the committee whether they have a parliamentarian or not. So
because it's not addressed in the ordinance.
Madam Mayor, can I address this?
Yes, please.
In the Parks Committee, there were 2 council members involved in the Parks Committee. We don't have that in the Animal Control Advisory Committee. We only have 1 council member. What I'd like to do is make a motion to, I was interested in parliamentarian, but I understand this dilemma. I would like to make a motion to have a second alderman involved in the Animal Control Advisory Committee.
Which isn't on the agenda.
Exactly. It's not on the agenda. And typically the way that works is the Animal Control Advisory Committee, excuse me, would make that would be on their agenda. They would decide if they want that to happen, then it would come before council. That's the way I understood it.
So we need to go one more cycle. Okay.
And Cassandra, is that
And
correct?
if you remember how Alderman Fillinger got on the Parks Committee, he was a regular citizen. He subsequently won the election that he was in, and he remained on the committee. So that's why we have 2. Not that it's not a good idea to have 2. I was just trying to relate how that came about.
I see.
Initially, was the only alderman on it was me.
Right.
So in that case, are we setting a precedent to always have 2 aldermen on committees?
No.
No.
Okay.
No, we're not.
Okay.
Alderman Fillinger, please go ahead. You have your hand up, your mute button on.
Okay, let's try this again. Mayor Ball, you sponsored this item C. I think maybe I would recommend that you withdraw it and refer it back to the Animal Control Advisory Committee.
I would tend to agree to that. So
Yes.
I will go ahead. I'm going to pull item 6C from this agenda, and we will refer that back to the Animal Control Advisory Committee for consideration.
Okay.
Okay, now, with that being said, is there any interest from anyone on the council of addressing item 6A before we adjourn? I see no hands up. Okay. So then it is now 9:16 p.m. and we are going to adjourn. And I apologize for it taking longer than I had anticipated, but I think we did get a lot accomplished, and a couple of the items did take, considerable time. But thank you, everyone, and have a great evening.